Right, so in the last short video I made about the Mark II, I did say that the back end of the bike was too high, and a lot of people in comments and in real life have told me the same thing. This is far too high, so I'm using my provided Maxton little tool to slowly wind these adjusters back down. In fact, this is quite a clever system, because I thought maybe the little grub screw there that I thought, oh, I have to undo that to make this thing move, but no, the grub screw has a little nylon ball behind it which rests upon the thread, so you don't touch that, you just simply turn it and it acts like a giant nylon nut, so it's quite clever. So yeah, I'm just now winding it down. Finished. I'll do the other side and we'll see what difference it makes to the stance of the bike. Okay, so that was super easy. I've just spun this top adjuster nut up from where it was, which was 30mm below the top of this thread, to only 12mm, which means I've dropped the bike down hopefully by 18mm. I could go a bit more, because obviously I've got 12mm to go, but if I keep on spinning this top nut here, the springs become loose and rattly, so I don't want to do that. So that's about the limit of how far I can go. But yeah, it's really easy to do, so all good. And so, as expected, making that adjustment has improved the stance of the bike. This gap here is still a little bit too high for me, but hopefully when we add over 100 kilos of weight, over 200 pounds of weight, with the engine in the bike and the bike fully completed, that should, you know, lower the bike even more. And in fact, I think now this bike will feel a lot better to sit on, because before these springs felt very harsh. So let me jump on the bike and we'll see if I'm right. Oh yeah, they actually move now, whereas before they hardly moved at all. So it's still very high, but not quite as high as it was. So we'll call that a win. I mean, it will not be standard, obviously, because these shocks are a bit higher, even in their lowest setting, than a standard bike would be. But I don't want a sort of German Street Fighter look. I don't want to look whereby the tail end is really high in the air, like some kind of 90s German Street Fighter. No, but at the same time, I want it to handle really well, and if we've got a bit of a higher back end, then that's fine, that's fine. So yeah, so far so good. And so in the last video, I weighed my half-finished Kawasaki Z1000 Mark II, which doesn't have an engine yet, along with my Z650 that's in the back of the garage now, which also doesn't yet have an engine. And when I weighed them, I was quite surprised to find the Mark II here was so much lighter than the Z650, something like 17 kilos, which I thought was amazing, because although I expected it to be a bit lighter, since it's now got lightweight R6 wheels, forks and so on, I didn't expect it to be so much lighter than a standard-ish Z650, so that kind of puzzled me. So what I did was, I went and bought myself a new weigh scale, a more accurate weigh scale, because I think the old one was playing up a little bit, and I've repeated that same process, and sure enough, the Mark II is not 17 kilos lighter than the Z650, which is something like 36, 37 pounds. No, instead it's only 6 kilos lighter. That's still, you know, that's still good, because normally, of course, a bigger Mark II rolling chassis would be heavier than a similar Z650. So with that cleared up, I've wheeled out my Z650 stroke 1170 here, and I've repeated the same process. And what I've done is I simply rolled it out, rolled it on the back wheel on this weigh scale here, then repeated the same process on the front wheel, and sure enough, when I've done this in the past with an accurate weigh scale anyway, the results are very accurate, or pretty damn accurate anyway. They're something like within 1% of the true weight which I've measured in the past on a verified weigh scale. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. Now at the moment, of course, this bike has no petrol in it. It's got half a engine full of oil, most of it's leaked out right now, and it doesn't yet have a chain and the outrigger system, but I've just weighed them separately and they come to about 2.6 kilos for the outrigger and about 1.5 kilos for the chain, so I've dealt with that now. And so I was hoping this bike would be quite a lot lighter than a standard Z1000 or Z900. because it's got lightweight swing arm, lighter forks, even though they are much thicker at 43mm, and of course these rather cool billet wheels. Now these are not as light as modern superbike wheels, certainly not as light as the R6 wheels on the Mark II, but they are lighter than the original heavy mag wheels from the late 70s. So anyway, the standard bike, something like a Z1000, would be something like 245 kilos altogether, which is about 545 pounds. This bike, I've just weighed it, is 211.6 kilos. So doing the maths, I think that's something like 34 kilos lighter than a standard old Z1000. So that's pretty good. I'm not sure what those numbers are in pounds. I'll have to work it out and I'll put it up on the video right now. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. And I'm also pretty happy that I reckon my Mark II here will be even lighter than that, because the wheels in particular are a hell of a lot lighter than the wheels on this. Maybe not quite as cool looking, but they are lighter. So that's quite some interesting facts there. And so now I just need to sort out my outrigger system and solve my oil leak problem, which won't be easy. Get the chain on it, and that's pretty much the bike done. I can then hopefully start the bike up without too many problems. But that'll be for another day. So we'll get these pushed back in the garage, and we'll see what else I can do today. And now here we have the Mark II headlamp bracket we made some time ago, and Jeff has been busy and he's already made a start on the two ears that will bolt to this, and then in turn these will hold the headlamp in place. Now so far it's very rough and ready. I'm going to bang it away there outside, and yeah, so what will happen is it'll look something like this when it's on the bike. Right now it looks absolutely awful, of course, so all just rough and ready. And having worked out the exact dimensions we need with the headlamp in place, we know we've got to take off about 15mm from this thick part of the billet block. That'll make it look a lot better, I think. We've also got to shape the edges, make them look a lot better, and when we've done that, I'll take it home, fit it on the bike, because then what we've got to do is work out the exact angle we need on this face here, so that it is parallel with the forks, because that is not the same as the angle on this bracket. This bracket's out by about 8 degrees angle wise from the line of the fork stanchions, and I want it to be this line here to be in line with the fork stanchions and not with this bracket, because this bracket's going to be painted black and hopefully you'll hardly see it on the bike. I'm also going to make these things black as well, get them hard anodized, maybe black or satin black or even matte black, so it's kind of, they'll just disappear into the general look of the bike. They won't stand out like they do right now, particularly when they've been shaped and made a lot neater. So yeah, that's progress so far, and we'll come back when Jeff has finished milling these and shaping them on the miller, at which point, as I say, I'll take them home and see how it looks on the bike. And now here we are back in my garage again. So in the next few days I should be getting the finished brackets back from Jeff so I can mount the headlamp at last. And when that's done, it got me thinking about, well, what else can I do with the bike? Because right now it doesn't have an engine, and God knows when the engine will be complete and in the bike. So the more I thought about it, I thought, well, hang on, what I can do is probably build about 90% of the wiring loom and the wiring harness for the bike, even though I don't have an engine. Because the engine I just need to have, you know, oil pressure, neutral light, ignition, that's about it really. So, oh, and also power to the coils, but I can do that without the engine. So my next task then will be, once the headlamp is in place, I can start to think about what else I need to make the full electrical system complete. And to do that, well, I've got to make quite a few decisions. So I've got to decide what kind of instrumentation do I use. On the 1170 here, I just used a modern digital speedo, combined speedo tacho unit, all easy peasy, put it on the bike, make a bracket, away you go. But I would like to try and retain the old Mark II speedo tacho sort of combination, which is so classic to the old Zs. Don't have that, and even if I did, I couldn't use it as is because I don't have a mechanical drive from the front wheel anymore, so it would have to be electronic, and that means changing everything. So not sure what to do about that yet, but as it turns out, Les has been on the phone to me today. He says, oh, I've got not one but two Mark II instrumentation pods, so what we might be able to do is take one of those, take it apart and fit modern instruments into the cases of the Mark II body. Not sure if that's possible. I don't even know what size diameter a standard Mark II Speedo or Taco actually is. Typically on the aftermarket you can get them 60 or 80 millimeters, so with a bit of luck it might be an 80 millimeter instrument pod, which will make my life a lot easier. So that's a decision I've got to make, and I can't really do all the wiring and buy the parts until I know whether that's a possibility or not. Next up then, I've got to decide on the switchgear for the bike. Now on several of my bikes I've used the Motor Gadget momentary contract switches, which I really like. And what I like about them is they're quite small and neat, and also they work really well with the Motor Gadget M unit, which is also something I've used on a lot of different bikes. So I think I'll go with that option again for the Mark II. So I went online to buy myself an M unit basic version, and guess what, it doesn't seem like they make it anymore. They only make the so-called M unit Blue, which is more expensive, about £100 more expensive, but has a hell of a lot more functionality. And it has things like it can talk to your mobile phone, and you can set up the attributes of the M unit from your application you put on your mobile phone. And it's got all kinds of clever stuff like that. You can start the bike from your phone. It's got a sort of a Bluetooth interface, and that all sounds fantastic, but I'm not sure I need my motorbike to talk to my mobile phone and vice versa. It seems a bit over the top, but if that's the only option I've got, then I'll have to buy an M unit Blue. So with that then, I also now need to work out what things like indicators I need as well, because on the bike I'm still retaining the standard indicator mounts at the back of the bike, so therefore I've probably got to use the standard indicators, which are quite big. Not sure they're the best looking things, but if I don't do that, if I want to go for something a bit smaller, a bit lighter, then I'll have to saw off or remake the whole back end. There's like a big bracket which holds both the indicators and the rear lamp, so I've got to saw that off and faff about, which I don't want to do because it's a nice standard part. So I think I might have to retain the original parts for that and go and buy myself a full set of standard indicators, which I can do. I mean, they are available from Z Power, so that's another thing. So, right, what else can I do? Well, just arrived today is these things, as you can see. They're from Hell, I like Hell products, and these are the same handlebar controls as I've got on my 1170. I'm so impressed with them. I thought, right, we'll buy the same thing again. And what I like is, A, they're built in Britain, which is great, and also you actually don't buy a sort of left hand and right hand version. You buy the same one because you can tip them over and it works on either side, which I thought was quite clever. What's also quite clever is that you can modify the piston size of the cylinder just with what you get in the kit, because I'm not sure exactly how it works. Well, I do know how it works. It's a bit difficult for me to explain on camera, but basically you get a piston inside and it changes its size. You can fit different piston sizes, which alters the effect of the master cylinders. Now, why that's important to me is that, let's say I fit a hydraulic clutch conversion to the bike, which I will be doing, and I fit it to the bike, bleed it all the system out, and I try it out the first time, and it's really stiff. It's really difficult to pull in for me. It works, but it's really hard work. Well, that's it. That's what you're stuck with. Well, no, with these Hell master cylinders, I can change the piston size, so I can increase the piston size. No, or do I know? I decrease the piston size, which means it's moving less fluid inside, which means I've got to move the lever a bit more, but that in turn makes the lever pull a bit lighter, so you can sort of fine tune it. Ditto for the brakes. You know, if you find the front brakes a bit squashy, you know, you don't really like it, the movement of the lever is too much, you can fit a slightly bigger piston inside and firm it up a little bit. So I really like that idea, so we'll get them on the bike. One thing actually I've been thinking about is, right in front of me here is the front end of the bike. Let me just move the camera. And another decision I've got to make is what kind of handlebar do I want? I think the height of this handlebar here, this Renthal handlebar, is about right for me, but I'm not sure about the colour. I wasn't sure about the colour at all. I wasn't keen on it. But the more I've looked at the bike and I've sort of got used to the colour, I quite like it. It kind of matches the gold on the pinstripes of the bodywork and also, of course, the gold of the wheels. So I might keep this. Right now it's a bit in your face, but by the time I've got the, you know, the throttle in place and the grips and the controls, it won't be such an eyesore, as it were. It won't be so in your face. And actually this isn't too bad. It is a bit marked here and there, but that's where the clamps have been for the master cylinders and so on, so you won't really see that. So I'm not sure whether I'll keep this or not. There are some marks on the back, so I might have to change it. But yeah, I may well go with this. The alternative is I can fit black or silver or maybe chrome. Chrome's a bit retro, I guess, but I would prefer to use an aluminium Renthal bar because they're lighter. They're also easier to drill because I've got to drill the handlebars at both ends for the wiring of the switches, and also drill a hole in the base here to let the wire out and go back to the centre of the bike. So yeah, I think I may well just buy another version of this. The height's about right, so yeah, I may well keep this. So what's next then? What's next? Well, what's next is I've got to buy myself a new handlebar, just like this one but unmarked. I've also got to buy the switchgear, an M-unit blue, and what else? Some more wiring, no doubt. I've got packs of wiring down here, packs of just standard loops of wiring, but I may well need some more. I've also got to decide things like, where do I put, here we are, look, where do I put this? This is the rectifier, and on a standard bike it goes under the seat, I think under a side panel. Not always the best place to put it because it can get hot in there. You know, rectifiers don't like being hot. They like a nice cool breeze around them, keep them nice and cool. But the good news is on that bike, on this bike here, is it's not going to have its standard airbox, which takes up quite a lot of room in that same area. So just fitting K&N style pod filters means that there's more room around the front of the side panels, and that will allow more cool air behind the side panels and hopefully running over this little rectifier. So I think I'll mount it underneath a side panel. Ditto when I get the M-unit blue, that will also be mounted underneath a side panel. So yeah, still a lot to do. I can do an awful lot on the wiring, as I say, even though the engine's not yet in the bike, and that's quite good. But obviously I've got to wait until all those parts have been bought and they arrive, and by then hopefully I'll have the headlamp in place, so I'll know where I can route the wires and so on, cables. When that's also done, I can also work out the lengths and routing of the brake lines for the front and back of the bike, get that bought. Of course I'll buy Hell again, get them bought, get them on the bike. So yeah, there's still an awful lot to do. I've also been in contact with the supplier of my Tarosi rear sets, who's on holiday for the whole of August, so I just got an automatic reply. So I guess I won't be getting an answer from him anytime soon, but hopefully, fingers crossed, when he gets back end of August, and Italy will be back to work as well, and I should be getting my Tarosi rear sets sometime in September. But I guess there's not much rush for that because I've still got an awful lot to do before it matters. So yeah, so far so good. I've also got here the ProMotion throttle, got that to fit, and also another electrical part here from Dynatech. This is the Dynatech coils that go beneath the tank, so I can fit them there quite easy. They'll bolt straight on. I can't yet make up the leads, of course, because I don't know how long they should be. I don't have an engine in place, so yeah, still lots to do. So we will catch up in the next video when I've bought all those parts, and we'll make a start on fitting all those parts to the bike and start to wire up the bike for the first time. I can do quite, as I say, I can do quite a lot without the engine in place. In fact, I can do probably 90% of the wiring. I can test everything out and whatever. I will be going to see Les later on next week because he reckons, as I say, he's got 2 instrumentation pods from a Mk2, which I would like to use. Obviously the mounts are all different because I've got a ZRX front end, but we can sort that out in the future. So yeah, so far so good. Things do drag on a little bit at times, but that's what happens when you build one-off bikes. There are an awful lot of decisions to be made, an awful lot of work to do, but hopefully it'll be worth it in the end. So anyway, thanks for watching and cheers.